Because if you're not raised to believe that he was a prime example of someone not raised in the church and someone not raised going to Sunday school. You know, their only connection with God is that I have some friends that went to Sunday school, or I have some friends that say they're Christians, but I don't know anything about that. Abraham is a prime example of someone who wasn't raised in the church and who came to faith later on in the one true God. And so, faith is knowing that God is and that he will do what he says he will do. We find out from Hebrews chapter 11. In the New Testament talks about all these different great men of faith from the Old Testament. We read in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, "But without faith, it is impossible to please him, God. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." So this point just didn't come out of the back recesses of my mind. This came straight from Scripture. And the writer of Hebrews says that that's what faith is. Knowing that God is, and that he will reward those who seek him. He will do what he says he will do. Second point of what faith is looking to him, looking to God for provision. Faith does not require explanation. You don't need to know why God is doing certain things. You don't need to know why God is doing what he's doing, or why he's not doing what you think he's not doing. If something isn't working out the way you want, something that you dreamt, or something that you just wish would happen, but you trusted in God, why are things the way they are? Why are things the way they are? It's a very human question to ask. It is. Just being honest. It is a very human question to ask. Why is God, I'm trusting him, I have faith that he's going to do what he wants me to do. That he's going to do what he says he will do. But why are things not working out the way that I want them to? But faith admits that we don't need to know all the answers. Faith admits that. Real faith admits that we don't need to know all the answers. See, when God promised Abraham a son, when God said, Abraham, I'm going to give you a son, not only that, I'm not only just going to give you a son, but I'm going to make you a great nation. This land that I'm giving you is going to be their inheritance. This is going to be the land that they're going to be living in. God wasn't just making a physical promise to Abraham. He wasn't just physically saying, I'm going to give you a physical son to which you can give your inheritance to which who can carry on your family name. It wasn't just a physical promise. So remember what I said, Abraham had no hope. Abraham had no meaning. He had no purpose. Without this son, he wouldn't have had any of that. So having faith in God to know that he's going to provide for you is not just the physical things. It's not just food. It's not just a roof over your head. It's not just clothes. It's not just relationships. It's meaning. It's purpose. It's hope. That's what faith is. Having faith that God is going to provide meaning and purpose in your life. Without that, without faith, you go anywhere. You just kind of coast through life. You have no hope. You have no meaning. You go to the day-to-day job, you do the day-to-day tasks, and beyond that, it's just, I don't know. But faith in God. God is what gives meaning and what gives purpose and hope to us. Faith in knowing that he will provide. Looking to him and him only for provision. That's what faith is. Third part of what faith is. It is a process. Just like salvation. Salvation is not, I got saved, or I said this prayer when I was 10 years old at VBS way back when. That's not getting saved. That's not salvation. That's not becoming a Christian. That's the beginning. That's the start. The rest of salvation, the rest of Christianity, the rest of your life on earth is sanctification. A big word meaning that God is changing you to who you were from who you were before to who he is. in hope. That just like salvation, faith is a process. An initial act of faith, an initial act of believing that God is, of knowing that God is, which is the same as salvation, knowing that God, through Jesus Christ, is a forgiver of our sins and the only one that can bring us to be with God, both here on earth and after death. That initial act of faith, and then the whole rest of your life is this process. Looking back on all the times that God provided for you, and God did what He said He was going to do for you and through you, and knowing that He's going to continue to do that the rest of your life. It's a process. Because just like Abraham, we see, it says, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him as righteousness. It was credited to his account as righteousness. We see that. Abraham believed. Abraham had faith that God was going to do what He said He was going to do. But still, Abraham was human, right? Abraham wrestled with this just like we wrestle every day. Is God actually going to do what He says He's going to do? I have faith, but I don't know. That's where real faith comes in. Right? Because here's the thing. Abraham ends up getting that son. Abraham's wife conceives, Sarah conceives, at 90 years old. Carries that child to full term, has that child. Abraham now has this promised child, names the child Isaac. And now we just say, okay, oh, that's a great end of the story. That's cool. We imagine that now this great emotional music, the end being scribbled across, and this overlay saying, and they lived happily ever after, right? We imagine that's great. That's a great ending of the story. But what's the very next thing that happens that we read in Scripture? Abraham finally, all this faith finally comes true. God does what He says He's going to do. He gives him this promised child, Isaac. Then the very next thing that happens is God says, Abraham, I want you to take that promised child. I want you to go up to this mountain, and I want you to sacrifice this child to me. I want you to kill this child, this one that I gave you. But this time, this goes under faith as a promise. This time, or a process. This time, Abraham knows. He can look back on all the times that God provided for him, and God took care of him. And look at that. God gave him that son. And when Abraham and Isaac and Abraham's servants go to that mountain, to the foot of that mountain, where Abraham is going to take Isaac up and sacrifice him, he says to his servants, he says, wait for us here, because both me and the boy are going to return. We're both going to come back. Abraham, now people may say, Abraham might just said that just so Isaac wouldn't run off, so the servants wouldn't all of a sudden tie Abraham up because they thought he was crazy for trying to kill his own son, and that Abraham just kind of said that just to calm everybody's fears and say, listen, both me and the boy are going to come back. But that's not it. We read in Hebrews 11:17. If you want to turn there. Hebrews 11:17.